Hey everybody, KC here. So my friend Scott Moses of Solomon Partners posted an infographic on Solomon's website the other day that you may have seen. And it's 5 more things that you might not know about Walmart. And I have it right here. I'm going to post a full-size version of it down below so you can take a closer look at it. And basically it's statistical, it's numerical, it's an analysis, but basically I don't think the numbers are going to surprise you. I mean, they're really big numbers, but they shouldn't surprise anybody who's been paying attention. Basically, it says Walmart has $421 billion in global grocery sales, more than Costco, Aldi, and Lidl combined, and they're number 2, 3, and 4. Amazon comes in 5th at $134 billion, Kroger 6th with $113 billion. Basically, Walmart has $342 billion in U.S. grocery sales, 30% of the U.S. grocery market share, and 39% of U.S. e-grocery market share. So what does it tell us? Walmart's really, really big. And as I said, that shouldn't surprise anybody. But my reaction when I saw these numbers, in addition to not being surprised, was, okay, so what? What should any retailer not named Walmart do with these numbers? Okay, they tell us exactly how big Walmart is, but they don't really tell us what to do about it. And I reached out to Scott and asked him that question. And basically, listen, he said it's an effort to make sure that people have a clear view of the road ahead and a dashboard in front of them that they can use to start to make decisions. And I think that's a completely valid reason for putting these numbers out there. And I think, listen, it's not part of the infographic, but clearly the subtext here is, if you're going to drive effectively, if we're going to continue to use that metaphor, well, in this context, you might want to think about a convoy. You might want to think about a carpooling. Basically, you might want to think about M&A, because M&A, merger, acquisition, that sort of thing, is going to make you more competitive, ideally. It's certainly going to give you more skill with which you can do battle against companies like Walmart. And then, listen, that was a lot of the argument for the Kroger Albertsons deal that did not go through. And I agree that you need to know what the road ahead looks like economically, right? But I also think you have to have a sense of where you're going. And I'm not sure most retailers necessarily do know where they're going. I think that they don't have a sense of destination in terms of having a sense of how differentiated their destination needs to be if indeed they're going to compete with the likes of Walmart. And by the way, Costco and Aldi and Lidl and Kroger and Amazon for that matter. I think I would make the argument that even if Kroger and Albertsons had been allowed to merge, I'm not sure they would have necessarily been more competitive with Walmart in kind of the broader philosophical sense. Yeah, they would have been able to buy a little cheaper. They would have had more stores. But my feeling is they probably would have continued doing business as usual for those companies. They would have done anything to rethink what the grocery shopping experience really should be like in a physical sense long term. They would have still continued building the same kinds of stores with the same kinds of layouts, with the same kinds of stock keeping units, with the same kinds of pricing, and nothing necessarily would have changed except size. And listen, size is not the only issue that I think companies need to think about. It's an important issue, but it's not the only issue. And listen, Scott would agree with me. We exchanged some texts the other day, and one of the things he said is, listen, Walmart, Costco, Amazon, Aldi, all drive sales on price and transaction efficiency. Other grocers need to have a differentiated offering of quality, experience, and connection and trust, capitalizing on their local strengths and their most valuable asset. They're often generations deep relationships with customers. And I think that's absolutely true. But I do think that retailers need to think more seriously about reinventing the shopping experience, about rethinking what the store actually should look like, rethinking the number of SKUs they have in the store, rethinking the way stores are laid out, rethinking stores in a way that puts them in the mind of the consumer as opposed to what's necessarily more efficient for them. I still think stores are generally laid out to be efficient rather than being effective. And I think there is a same old mindset that still continues to infect a lot of retailers. Now, let's be clear, not all retailers. There are some retailers that totally get this, that totally understand that they need to differentiate themselves in such a crowded and fragmented marketplace where one company dominates to the extent that Walmart does. But as I said, listen, none of this should take anyone by surprise. None of this is news, but it's something I think retailers need to think about more and more. Yeah, Walmart's big. Nobody is likely to be as big for a long, long time. So how are you going to be different? How are you going to do things that Walmart doesn't do? How are you going to do things that Walmart can't do? That's going to be the key to competing successfully. It's not just about scale. It's not just about adding size or adding scale or adding more stores or, merging and acquiring. Those things can be important. But at the end, competing is not just about that. And if it's just about that, I think you're not really competing. Anyway, that's what's on my mind. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.